Hey guys, it's Dennis here with Revog Games. I'm joined by
Josh Weyers all the way in South Africa, and we got some great, interesting news.
big news, something that you and me had predicted a couple months ago. So let's just get to the news. Microsoft has announced that they are buying Activision Blizzard for what's the total price? $68.7 billion dollars, which dwarfs
Basically 70 billions, yeah.
Yes, which dwarfs is about 10 times, almost 10 times the amount that they paid for Bethesda, well, ZeniMax / Bethesda.
It's also bigger than the Zynga deal, the
Yes.
the Take-Two Interactive Zynga deal. It was bigger than that. I thought that was going to be the biggest deal of the year, even though the year had just begun. We predicted this, but
Yes.
I didn't I thought it was going to happen, but I just completely forgot about that possibility, and then it happened. And
Yes. The first thing I thought of when honestly, the first thing I thought was, oh, we talked about this before. Here, let me play the clip right now for everyone to watch. Here we go. Based on the way that this is just, me speculating here. It's like, based on the position Activision Blizzard is in, with if Microsoft is engaging them in whatever, like, what if Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard and vowed to clean it up,
fixed it?
Yeah.
I mean, it could also be a good opportunity for Sony to finally nab a studio. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, it would be smart, because if their shares are dropping, the price of this company is dropping as well. You know what I mean? It would be very at a certain point. I think they're gonna want to be bought. You know what I mean? They're gonna want to be bought because they know that not only will it be, good money to get bought, but also it gives them a second chance. You know?
Yes.
That's the only way that they're gonna get a second chance in the future, is if they get bought by a bigger company.
So there you go. We had talked about it 2 months ago, actually 2 months to the day, on our weekly podcast, the Revog Games podcast, and it came up because we had talked about all the legal trouble and PR trouble that Activision Blizzard was having, and the CEO not stepping down despite all the walkouts and the protests and this, from the employees, and just like how their stock was diving, nosediving.
Now it's climbing. I would like to point out, now their stock, since the acquisition, their stock is going up.
Yeah. Well, what we had predicted was that a larger company would have to come in and buy them, and I had said Microsoft because of what they had done with Bethesda, and it would give this. The thing is even if they tried to reset themselves from within, it just there's so much baggage and so much history there that
they need a second chance, essentially, or a fresh start. A fresh start,
and also someone that's bigger, has more, more to them, can, basically Microsoft coming and buying them, they're going to be like, okay, you're out. What's the deal with the CEO, Bobby Kotick? He's going to be leaving at the end of this deal.
He's going to leave. Yeah, once the deal's over, which they're speculating takes about a year, so he's still going to be CEO for at least another year, probably. Maybe the deal gets done sooner and he leaves sooner, but most likely he will only be leaving beginning 2023, maybe end of 2022. I will say as well, while we're at it, before getting into the gaming part of this deal, it's also good to look at the business part of this deal, which is the fact that just because this acquisition happened doesn't mean that the work environment is going to get better right away.
No.
It's still a really toxic work environment. I do hope that Microsoft could, because of what they were saying before the time about not even wanting to have ties with Activision Blizzard, and they don't stand for that shit. You know what I mean? So hopefully they stick to their words and they really rework both these companies from the ground up to be less toxic, less of a frat boy kind of a business. So I hope that they actually fix, besides we'll talk about the games in a minute, but I hope that they fix the fundamental issues at that business, which is the toxic work environment. And then also, hopefully they put somebody in that company that is in touch with gamers, because that's the one thing. Activision Blizzard has been so out of touch with gamers for years that I really hope that maybe they can put somebody in charge that knows what the hell the gamers want of today,
Yeah. That was the whole prediction was, and I think you had mentioned something about possibly Sony, but we just know Sony doesn't have the cash and capital that Microsoft.
Screwed. Sony, like okay, here the first two things I thought of is the first thing I thought of was, wow, this is going to be great for me as someone who has Game Pass. This is going to be fantastic for me. My second thought was, oh no, Sony. Yeah. Oh, poor Sony. What's going to happen? Like dude, Activision, okay, not Blizzard, but Activision was like a big part of Sony years ago. You know, they always were kind of tied together. So it's kind of scary. I mean, look, they've still got their big IPs, and they're going to be focusing on their single player narrative driven games. So Sony, they're not going to be losing money, but they just like, I wouldn't say they lost the fight, but it's like it's going to be a hard battle.
It's hard to compete forward. It's hard to compete.
It's super hard for them to compete, man. Microsoft acquired so much in the past like 3-4 years. They've acquired so much. That's crazy. So I do wonder what Sony. Well, I guess look. Sony at least is trying to dip into the VR space. Like they've got that as well going for them. PSVR 2 does look promising. It's got a good field of view. But in terms of this deal, it's not looking good for Sony. Looking great for us as Game Pass.
Yeah. Like let's talk about the IP that basically Xbox bought. You know, obviously there's going to have to be a kind of organization of obviously the entire Activision Blizzard company to get it. I want to talk about Blizzard separately when it comes to Game Pass, because there's actually it's going to be really difficult to get most of the Blizzard games onto Game Pass because of Battle.net, and it might be we may as well briefly talk about this now or here, but it might be a thing where it's going to be similar to EA Play, where it's like you'll still have to use the Battle.net launcher. Because it's not going to happen through the Game Pass app. You know what I mean? You'll have, and keep in mind, most Blizzard games are PC games. You know, I mean, like like Diablo will come to Game Pass for console. You'll get Diablo 3. You'll get probably Diablo 2. And when Diablo 4 does come out, Diablo 4 is, I can tell you right now, Diablo 4 is going to be Game Pass day one exclusive, and so is Overwatch 2. When Overwatch 2 comes out, that's probably also going to be a day one Game Pass exclusive. But they're older games, a little tricky to get onto Game Pass. So it might be a thing where it's like your Battle.net account might get linked to your Game Pass account so that you can access Battle.net and have all the games there. You know what I mean? There's also a possibility of them just not putting them on Game Pass because Battle.net, a lot of their games, even their newer games, they work on servers and they run on code from like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's a bit different. Like that was the whole reason Diablo 2 had a big issue, is because Diablo 2 was still running on legacy servers from like the 90s, like late 2000s, you know? So there's a lot of like issue when it comes to coding that I can see getting in the way. But in terms of Activision, I think everything Activision has made is probably going to end up on Game Pass at some point. Yeah, but let's get into how big this is, because, you know, some people, you know, you think Activision Blizzard, but you got to think about the IPs that they own. You're talking about Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty is not as big as it once was, but it's still pretty big. You know what I mean? So you're talking about. I do think Warzone will probably remain, because it is a free-to-play game. There's no point in limiting it to any type of console or system, right? That's still going to be PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, whatever Sony's console is. Because you're making money off of, you know, the microtransactions, right? The battle passes and the microtransactions. So there's no need for that to be exclusive to any platform. But then when you're talking about...
Well, I mean, Warzone's free anyways.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But, I mean, there's no need to limit it to any platform. But when you're talking about whatever the regular Call of Duties that are coming out every single year, which you and me have talked about before, that needs to stop. It needs to. I agree, they need to go the Assassin's Creed route, put out a game every 2 to 3 years instead, and make sure that you're hyping it and it's something new and different. This one game a year model is not going to work, especially with these free.
I think
you're competing against yourself.
It's true. I think people are going to be excited for the older Call of Duty games to come to Game Pass, if that makes sense. Like the newer ones, yes, but like a lot of those servers are dead. But if I can play Call of Duty Ghosts right now on Game Pass, I'm going to. You know what I mean? If I can play the original Modern Warfare, I'm going to. You know, if I could play Ghosts 1, 2, 3, like yeah. So a lot of the older games, the Black Ops. That was it. Sorry, Black Ops. Black Ops and Ghost. Like if I can play those two original games on Game Pass, I will. Because the campaigns for those games are great. Servers might be dead, or maybe they'll get repopulated because of that. But I think people are excited to play the older ones. But also, I think you're right. Hopefully, they look at the company and realize that they're just pumping out too many Call of Duties. Like, since the reboot for Modern Warfare, like there were like 2 or 3 Call of Duties, and I was like, how did so many happen so quickly? And it's like you don't have the time to play them or catch up. You know what I mean? So I hope that they do exactly what you said, which is bring out a game every 2 or 3 years and just plan for that game to last more than a year. You know, give it some DLC, give it some expansions, you know, just plan for that game to last more than a year rather than just pumping out the next one and changing the combat mechanics.
Which the Game Pass model does fit that though, because you're not look at Halo or Forza Horizon. Those came out this year. There's no Halo coming out next year or even the year after, you know what I mean? It's a big game that comes out to big fanfare. Because fans are already subscribed to Game Pass, they get their value out of what they're paying. They remain on the Game Pass subscription model because they're getting their money's worth. So you don't need a Call of Duty every single year. You just need it to come out every few years so that the Game Pass subscriber will feel like they're getting their money's worth, right? Because the way that you have to think about Game Pass is this. Instead of thinking of, this is my one franchise, Call of Duty. It comes out every single year to make money. You have to think of it as every single game that's an exclusive, let's say a day one exclusive to Game Pass. Let's say Halo. Let's say now Call of Duty. Let's say Starfield. That is all. It's not the same franchise, but it's the same Game Pass. Like, how do you say? Like schedule. Like everything that's coming out on Game Pass. So you just need one of these to come out this year and one to come out the next year. So it's not, you don't need any single franchise to basically dominate or be the one that's like you have to consistently rely on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's all about a collective. It's a collective release, right? And you just, it's like the Netflix model. I mean, that's what Game Pass is. You're trying to release enough good content in a regular amount of time, you know, on a regular schedule that people like. If you had like a really good day one exclusive once a month, so that's why they're never going to, Game Pass is never going to be like, I'm going to release, let's say hypothetically, Starfield 1 week, and the next week they're going to release Elder Scrolls 6. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they're not. They have to wait, whether it's a month or 2 months. They need to spread them out so that you feel like, okay, I'm getting my money's worth and things don't get buried. So anyways, back to Activision and Blizzard. I mean, think about it.
I will
go ahead.
The main, but by the way, apparently one of the main selling points, or one of the main reasons they looked at this acquisition was actually because of mobile games. Blizzard working on Diablo for mobile, which I was skeptic at first. Also, it was one of those things where it was tone deaf. They announced Diablo Mobile before they announced Diablo 4, and they literally got booed off stage at BlizzCon. It was dumb. It was tone deaf. If they just showed, like I've said this in podcasts before, but if they just showed the logo for Diablo 4 and then spoke about the mobile game, nobody would have booed. But the fact that they spoke about that first, people booed it. I was skeptic about it. Supposedly, from people who have had it in their hands, it's actually really good. It's literally Diablo 3, but on your phone. Like almost like exactly like all the resources taken straight, just mapped out. So apparently it's doing well. It was also because of Call of Duty Mobile. So Call of Duty Mobile, Diablo Mobile, and they said so themselves that one of the main reasons that they went for it is because of mobile gaming, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, look, you're getting all the other great IP with it. There's like 30 studios in total, I think, underneath Activision. So it's a huge acquisition. But yeah, they say the growing mobile sector is an important attraction of the deal. Not the main reason, but it's one of the reasons why they took it. Because they don't want to like lose out on that mobile market, you know.
It's crazy too, because it's like this deal was announced today. People are talking about it, but it's less surprising this time around, even though it's a much bigger deal than Bethesda. Remember, Bethesda came out and people were, oh my God, right? There was like the first huge acquisition, because Microsoft had been gobbling up some of the smaller studios and smaller, IPs. Sony was doing the same. that was the first kind of big, exclusive acquisition. But then this time, with the status of what Activision Blizzard was at, and also with Microsoft's recent, purchases, it didn't shock us as much, right? I mean, that's why we had predicted it a couple months ago, was they are looking to acquire these large exclusive content, for Game Pass, essentially. And we're talking about, not just Call of Duty, but you're talking about Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, Tony Hawk. Like, there's just so much IP that they're getting with this.
It's weird, but Candy Crush was that's a big part of the acquisition as well. Like, it's dumb to say that, but they really are focused on that. That's crazy. I mean, even after this deal, like when this, like, I want to say if, but the deal's going to go through. It's just going to take a while. When this deal goes through, they're still technically behind Sony in terms of size and, I believe, market price. Like, it's still going to be,
what do you mean?
It's 10 cents.
What market price?
When the transaction closes, Microsoft will become the world's third largest gaming company by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. Okay. So Tencent and Sony are still going to be in front of them, but
I thought you were talking about company-wise. I was like, Microsoft dwarfs Sony when it comes to.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, in terms of revenue, though, they're still behind. Yeah. But I mean, keep in mind, Sony's not just gaming. You know what I mean? So you got to keep. Well, I guess Microsoft is not just gaming either. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, like it's gonna take a lot more to dwarf Tencent. That's for sure. Like, they're gonna have to do a lot more to beat Tencent. That's a huge company. I think. Okay, first of all, I will say Tony Hawk's, that's gonna be on Game Pass before we even know it, and I'm really excited about that because I got it on PlayStation, loved it. Really, I've been thinking about buying it on PC just to keep playing it because I don't have my PlayStation anymore. Now I don't have to. I know whether it takes. I think it'll be soon as well. Like, I think that's gonna come pretty quickly. A lot of the old Call of Duties will. I think Diablo 3 will. Some of, like I said, the Blizzard things are sketchy. I think some of the Blizzard games are going to come through to Game Pass, and some of them are going to stay on Battle.net. Maybe they'll link the accounts. I do also, like, this is a pipe dream of mine, but one of my favorite MOBAs is Heroes of the Storm, which is a Blizzard MOBA game, much like League of Legends or Dota, but it's more like a casual arcadey kind of version of those games where it's not as try-hard. You're not buying items. You're just leveling up. You're just choosing your abilities and skills as you level up. And the games are like, each map has a different kind of like thing to do. I don't know. It just reminds me of arcade. If a MOBA wasn't an arcade, this would be the one. And they kind of, I wouldn't say gave up on it, but they were like, Blizzard's like, oh, it's done. Like, the servers are still open, you can still play, but the game's done. They're not going to add new games. The way the game works is they use Blizzard characters. Like, they don't have they have a few fresh characters in it, but your like hero roster is all these different like Overwatch characters, Warcraft characters, Starcraft characters, all in one game. So I hope it's a bit of a pipe dream, but like I said, I hope with this acquisition, maybe either they're going to come up with like a whole brand new MOBA, or maybe they bring it back. And I hope they do bring it back because I do enjoy playing that game. Man, this is a freaking good like acquisition for them to make. Like, moving forward, like literally a year from now, Dennis, I just don't see anybody not using Game Pass. Like for the price point that it's at. Maybe, who knows? Maybe by then, because of the increase of properties they have and the increase of players, maybe they up the price. Like Netflix has to up the price every now and then. At a certain point, you don't get new subscribers. You already have them all. So you got to keep them coming back, which means buying for new stuff, which means possibly upping the subscription rate.
Yeah. It's.
I do think that they are going to give up on World of Warcraft because that game's dead. I don't see them reviving World of Warcraft. I just don't. Maybe rebooting it one day. Like, maybe they might reboot it one day, but I do not see them, like, And look, it's still got a community, but I don't see World of Warcraft being the most played MMO anymore. It's still going to be Final Fantasy 15. Hell, Final Fantasy 14 is so popular that you can't buy the game anymore. Like, did we cover that last week? Like, you can't buy the game anymore. There's too many people playing the game.
Servers.
So they're like, in order to make it fair for people that want, because there's so many new people coming, in order to make it fair for like the people who've been playing for years, they're like, we're not selling the game anymore, at least for now. They said they might open up sales again later this year, but right now, like they're not open to. That's how popular that game is. Like that's never been a problem. That was never a problem for World of Warcraft. You know, they've never had so many players where they actually have to say, okay, we're pulling the game from stores. It's too popular. You know, and the reason they can do that is because there's monthly subscription fees tied to the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
they don't need new players.
Yeah.
As long as the old players
are. And it was the players who asked for this. So they listened to the players and they did that. And they were like, and the players love that. They're so happy that the community listens and like they listen to the community. So I think they're gonna kind of give up on World of Warcraft. I think they're gonna look at like some of their other. Okay, we know Diablo 4 is in the works. We know Overwatch 2 is in the works, right?
Yeah.
With Activision, there's always gonna be a new Call of Duty in the works. I think they might take this moment to look at the other IPs. Like maybe I didn't think it would happen, and I always wanted it to happen, but maybe we can finally get StarCraft 3. You know what I mean? Because they're going to look at those IPs. That's a big IP to own. They're going to look at that and go, oh, we haven't touched this for like 15 years or something. Like, let's do something with that, you know?
Yeah. The one thing, though, with something like StarCraft 3, which is huge, but remember that will be, PC.
It would take years.
It also would be PC only. So you're really only kind of marketing to the PC Game Pass audience at that point, which is not bad, and it's still. I'm just saying that it's not as big a sell for being, let's say, Xbox game, exclusive or whatever. So they have some of these older properties Activision does that used to be huge, but not so much anymore, like the Guitar Hero series.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is they own the Crash Bandicoot series, because if you don't remember, that was originally developed by Naughty Dog and was an exclusive as PlayStation, and it was the default Sony mascot for a while. Do you remember that? Like they didn't own it, but it was the Sony mascot for
literally
a good few years.
back in the late 90s, you would like in conventions and stuff, there would literally be a dude dressed as Crash Bandicoot. It was their Mario.
Yeah.
Like they try to do the same with Spyro, but people like Crash Bandicoot more. Well. But what didn't Crash Bandicoot? I know the people that remastered the game do they now own the IP, or did the IP shift? Like, well, Sony still owns the IP. Well, actually, I don't know, because you can play it on Nintendo as well. Like the game is on Nintendo. The game is on other platforms.
No,
so I don't know if it's still
I think Activision.
IP.
Activision owns it.
Yeah, and whoever did the remaster, I think they own the IP now.
Yeah, I think Activision. Activision owns it. So it which is weird. That's why I'm saying it's weird. Now Microsoft owns the X. Not that it matters anymore. Crash Bandicoot is not, the mascot for Sony anymore.
They did a fourth game and people liked it, but it's not like it blew up. It's not like it, everyone's talking about how good the fourth Crash Bandicoot game was. I played it. It was fun, but it's still the remaster is the best with the 3 games.
And Spyro is now part of, I think, this package as well.
I was gonna say, it was because they were the people who did Crash Bandicoot, the remaster, also did the remaster for Spyro, I believe. So it's still similar IP, yeah. I wonder if they're gonna not pull the games, but a lot of these Activision Blizzard games are actually on Nintendo Switch, and I wonder if. Well, I don't think they're gonna pull the games.
I don't think they're pulling any games. I don't think they're pulling any games.
Moving forward, I don't think they will be on there.
No.
Like moving forward, the Diablo 4, I don't think that's going to get a Switch release. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't see that happening. Same with Overwatch 2.
Yeah, it's not changing anything from the past, but anything moving forward. It's like the Bethesda model, right? It's like, well, they're not going to get rid of what they already did, or whatever may already be in the works, but anything that's not like past a certain point is probably going to be exclusive to Xbox/PC, because why spend the money? You're trying to get people onto your Game Pass platform. The whole model, and this is just business 101, is what Amazon did and eventually became successful, and what Uber and Lyft are trying to do against each other. The delivery services, Grubhub and DoorDash and all that stuff we're trying to do is they're trying to get big enough, one, to eliminate the competition and basically get a monopoly on that particular, space, and then they will start, because they're all losing money, right? Like DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber, Lyft, all that stuff. They're losing tons and tons of money.
I was gonna say, you can ask anybody who works for them. You can tell by the way they're getting paid just how little money they're making.
Yeah. So they're all losing money, and their whole end game is to eventually be the number one and only provider, and then that's when they start raising the rates. That's what Amazon did. I mean, Amazon was losing money hand over fist, and the reason why investors kept giving money to them was because they were the leader in the space. It was only like, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when they started becoming profitable. I forgot what year exactly they started becoming profitable, but it wasn't that long ago that Amazon actually started turning a profit. And that's what I believe Xbox and Microsoft are doing with Game Pass, right? They're making these acquisitions that obviously are not going to pay off in terms of any short term, right? Like you're if you're buying a company for $7 billion or $70 billion in this case, Game Pass subscriptions are not paying for that in the near term, right? That it's all about long term. So
I think it's important to look. I wonder what the conversion rate's going to be, because right now we know Game Pass has more than 25 million subscribers. It was a big milestone for them.
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard, even with all the horrible things going on in the company, they still have 400 million active monthly users. So, look, I don't think all 400 million people are going to jump over to Game Pass right away, but you'll still easily be able to snag, like, you'll still double your subscription rate, you know? If you got 25 million Game Pass subscribers and you have 400 million like active users that play Activision Blizzard games, if you can just get like 25 million of that, you've already doubled your subscriber base. You know what I mean? Pulling people over.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I am interested to see what they're going to do with things like World of Warcraft. Are they going to let it die it out? Are they going to pump a lot of money into it to try to fix it? Or are they just going to let it die out or something? There's a lot of like their IP that I have no idea what they're going to do with it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of their IP they're either just going to try to like forget about, you know, and then some of the IP they're going to try to revive. But also there's a lot of IP besides the big games that we've been talking about. There's a lot of IP, like a lot, like things that I'm not even like you mentioned Guitar Hero. I forgot about that, you know, like there's so much IP that I completely forgot about that they can work into. Yeah, I hope we get another Tony Hawk's game, you know. They remastered Pro Skater 1 and 2. Maybe they can do 2 and 3 next time. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3 and 4 next time, you know?
Yeah, it's just crazy how big this acquisition.
Huge, $70 billion. I mean, that's at $95 a share, which is also, that's insane. You know what I mean? And you were right. We called it 2 months ago to the day. We were like, hey, they're losing money. Somebody big. It was also the only chance they had to get to look good. Well, not to look good again, but it's the only chance they have at redemption, you know?
Yeah, even because it's not coming from within. No one's buying anything they're going to do from within.
Bobby's going to be gone, you know? They say deal should be done by 2023 fiscal year, and then Bobby Kotick is out, you know what I mean? And I think so. We're not going to see any changes in the next year. You know, acquisition has to go through first.
Yes, no changes, but they're going to be. They know they're being watched, so they're going to have to be very careful about what they're doing in the next year.
I think once the process starts, I think we are going to start seeing some of the games show up on Game Pass. But in terms of like reworking the company and the toxic environment, I think that's going to take. Like they're only going to be able to really get started on that in like a year. Like people are like you said, people know they're going to be watched. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they know they have to kind of be like they got to be on their best behavior and not be assholes. Which really not hard to not be an asshole. So like if anybody at Activision Blizzard is worried right now, it's probably because you're an asshole. You know, so don't like if you're not an asshole, don't worry. You know, you'll be fine. You're in good hands. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so changes won't be happening. I do think we might see some stuff come to Game Pass, but until a year from now, not all of it. I think a year from now, Game Pass is going to be something that is damn near impossible to say no to. You know, it's just going to be so worth the money.
So to spring off of that, look, you and me have already been singing Game Pass praises for a while. We know their business model. It's the best value in the entire, gaming industry. Now, what does Sony do from here? What can they do? Look, they do have some of the best first-party exclusive titles. You're talking about God of War. You're talking about The Last of Us. You're talking about Uncharted. You're talking about Ghost of Tsushima. You're talking about Horizon. Yeah, that's all good. But how? First, there's talks about their kind of Game Pass version, which even Phil Spencer was like, "Look, Sony's eventually going to have to put their exclusives day one on there because it just makes no sense because people subscribing to something, and then this just puts more pressure on them. The question is, does Sony have the capital to actually make I mean, look, what's an equivalent acquisition to this? EA, right? Take-Two?
EA's already partnered with Xbox, essentially. Like, they've already got ties. They could acquire EA. They're not going to acquire Take-Two. That's too... I mean, if they did, I would be shook. That would be, like, if they had to... That's a huge acquisition. That would be bigger than this acquisition, you know what I mean? If they had to acquire Take-Two. So, I mean, that'd be crazy. But it's one of those things where moving forward, like you said, their first-party games, their exclusive games have to be day one on their subscription service. Mm-hmm. But that also means like the amount, like it costs a lot of money to make something like God of War. Like the God of War Ragnarok, that's going to cost a lot of money to make. So they're not going to make their return quick enough through a gaming subscription service. So if I was them, what I would do is I would charge money. I would say, hey, our first-party games are coming to Xbox consoles if Xbox will allow them, but they have to be paid for. Like, if you want to play God of War on Xbox, you got to pay for it. If you want to play God of War on PC, you got to pay for it. But if you got a PlayStation, you can have it on the subscription service. Like, that's one of the only ways I can see them being able to make the money back quick enough to be able to, because they don't have enough IP to be day one. They've got, like we said, they got like 3, maybe 4 good ones that they can have day one. And even then, they're only going to be bringing out maybe like 1 or 2 of those a year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's not enough.
That's what I was talking about the whole, like, you have to think of Game Pass as like all the franchises put together as one, not franchise, but it's basically the churn that they talk about on Netflix, right? Is you have to have enough good content that people want to, in this case, play in a consistent amount of time, right? You can't just have one awesome game come out and then like wait 6 months later and another awesome game come out. It doesn't. For subscription service doesn't work like that. You have to have every month. It doesn't have to be every week because every week is a bit much. But every month, you have to have something that
new stuff,
something big, not just like You
not
have to have
a
something.
Few indie games here or there. It's got to be something big.
Indie games are good for filler in the meantime. During the weeks that you don't have something big, but you need something big every 1 to 2 months.
I will say, and I said it before, and I can't believe I spaced on this just now when you asked the question, but I think the only thing that could give them a fighting chance, and even then it's still a hell of a fight, is if they had to acquire Square Enix. If Sony acquired Square Enix, I think that would give them a fair fight. They would still be able to corner the market, at least in Japan, you know what I mean? Because Square Enix does a lot of JRPGs. They do other games too, but mainly JRPGs. JRPG is very popular in North America and Japan. And most JRPGs on console are on Sony.
Xbox doesn't have a huge presence in Japan.
Yeah, they've got very besides a couple Final Fantasy games, they've got almost no JRPGs. Well, Game Pass is starting to get a couple JRPGs, but the Game Pass for PC, not the console one, as far as I know. Yeah,
so and
that could be big enough.
Then you look at Microsoft's purchases. You're talking about Bethesda, which is. They're American.
ZeniMax,
those are American RPG, Western style RPGs that people here in the United States and love, And then you're talking about Call of Duty, which is much bigger here in the U.S. than overseas. You know what I mean? So they're definitely, filling their library, their roster full of more Western centric stuff.
Microsoft essentially cornered the esports kind of section as well. Like a lot of the games they just acquired are huge esport games.
Overwatch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even StarCraft was huge, but like a lot of the games that they are very like they're mainly esport games. The only other big games that you're gonna get for esports, which is like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Dota. But other than that, like for the most part, like Activision Blizzard, like they dominated at least half the esports scene. You know what I mean? In terms of games played and games watched.
Yeah, so I honestly, Sony has only a
they
few...
really gotta knock PSVR 2 out of the park. Like Sony has to, the only way I can see them getting through this is, like I said, you gotta acquire Square Enix, so you get all your Final Fantasy stuff straight on PlayStation, nothing else on that subscription service. Like I said, that also includes other stuff like Just Cause. Well, Just Cause is on Game Pass. There's a couple Square Enix games on Game Pass, but that's like a partnership thing. They don't own them, you know what I mean? So they could still get they've got other games besides JRPGs. Square Enix does do a lot of other games, but then also like it's a lot more difficult. But if Sony had to invest a lot more money in first-party VR games, and if PSVR 2 does well, I can see them getting a fighting chance. They're never gonna beat Quest. They're never gonna beat Meta. They're never going to beat
that's
Meta.
Just, it's too consumer friendly. That's a consumer mainstream device versus PSVR 2 is going to be
exactly
for gamers.
PSVR 2, the PSVR 2 is going to be like somewhere in between, like everybody can afford it and slightly high end. You know what I mean? It's gonna like get that. It's gonna be that like almost in between of like besides getting a Quest and getting a Vive or an Index. You know what I mean? It's that in between. Especially because it'll be running off the PS5, so you'll be getting a much better experience than what you did on the PS4, you know, in terms of what it can be running and stuff. But still, it's just, even if they had to acquire Square Enix, and even if they had to really do well with PSVR 2 and like pump out a lot of money into more first-party games, new IP, because I feel like that's the only other thing that they can really get is they need to take a lot of risks and chances on new, fresh IP that they can bring in. Because they don't have that many, you know what I mean? I mean, they still have a lot, but like they don't have that many huge, big ones. They're gonna pull people in. Right now, especially with this deal, and we said it 2 months ago. With this deal, Microsoft they won. I don't see Sony winning. You know, at the rate things are going, I don't see there being. I mean, we know about cloud gaming, but ignore cloud gaming for a second. If we didn't have that, if we were gonna continue to do the console route, I just don't see there being a PlayStation 7, for instance. You know, like I just see them dying out in the next generation unless they like really make some moves.
Yeah, they're in a hard position right now. Because they've got to choose: are they going to go big and try and fight this? They don't quite have the deep pockets that Microsoft does, and make those big acquisitions, or are they going to basically fold up and be like, okay, we know we can still make a profit, but we've got to go, you know, all right, we're going to make these games that are, you know, are big IPs that sell well, and that's what we're going to be known for, and be kind of more niche, you know? It's not I'm pretty sure it's not a fun time over at Sony right now.
Oh no, they're panicking. They're definitely panicking. I mean, look, they do know. I do hope that they make more plans to bring their stuff to PC because
no, they have to. They They're going to have to do. Remember, like when we talked about, okay, well, they're not going to do the day one PC/PS.
Yeah.
Debuts a year later or 2 years. They're gonna have to change that model. It's gonna have to be the same. It's got to be
sooner.
No, it's got to be the same time. They can't afford to.
Sure.
They can't be like at this point they cannot do a subscription service, not have the day one exclusives of their big AAA titles, and then have the PCs come a year later or 2 years. Like they can't afford it at this point, right? Because they need to have something that makes people want to subscribe to their service and keep going. You know, it's weird because Sony is definitely the leader, the console leader. They won the last generation. They're winning this one for now, but in some ways that's all short term. In the long
term, they're starting to lose. You know, we haven't seen it yet, but we're gonna see it at this rate. We're gonna see well, Sony will still do well because they're a big company that does other stuff besides gaming. You know.
Yeah, but I'm talking about gaming specifically.
Yeah, gaming specifically. Look, the reason I say they gotta do things day one on PC as well is because the past 2 games that had come to PC was really well received. Well, actually 3 games to be honest. Even though Days Gone is like a weird iffy spot with Sony, but Horizon Zero Dawn, when it came to PC, it was optimized very well. It wasn't just like a simple little port. You know what I mean? It was It was optimized very well. Specifically, God of War, people were praising how smooth it's been running on their PCs, or even like lower end PCs. It's been like people are praising how well it's like how smooth it is. It's not just a simple little port. Like they didn't take the game and port it over. They really worked on it. You know what I mean? It is. I will say it is kind of funny though because it's a PlayStation game, but it has Xbox button layouts if you play it with a controller on PC. So it has like the Xbox, like you're playing it with an Xbox controller, and they're telling you to click things like, it's showing you the layout of an Xbox controller, which I find quite funny because it's a Sony game. But you're right, they have to be day one with PC as well to be able to match that. Because especially with the chip shortage, like they're moving forward, they're not going to be like, oh, let's make sure all these games are compatible on PS4. You can't do that with like a like 9-year-old system. You know what I mean? Like the hardware is too old. Like game developers are going to have such a tough time trying to optimize their games for previous generations. So moving forward, if they want to make more sales, they have to bring it to PC day one as well, like you said, because there's a chip shortage. Not everyone has a PS5. They're doing more PS4s now.
Remember the next generation of gaming after this PS5 and Xbox Series X generation is most likely going to be cloud gaming.
Cloud-based, yeah.
It's going to be cloud-based, and you're going to have a streaming stick that that's much cheaper. Your barrier of entry. There probably will be integrated into certain televisions, right? Like you'll just buy a TV and it'll already have whatever Game Pass installed on it, like and running, and all you need to do is buy a controller or some shit like that, and then it plays off there. So that's the whole point of Microsoft buying all this IP is so that they have the content for Game Pass, and Game Pass will be available not just on consoles but on PCs and on television screens, and therefore that's how they're going to make their money. It's not about selling consoles anymore.
I mean I think we've mentioned it 2 podcasts ago. I could be wrong, but I think it's Samsung. They've already developed their gaming hub, where it's like, hey, all your streaming, so far it's only Google Stadia and GeForce Now, I think, but they're like those 2 gaming streaming services, they're on Samsung TVs now. Like they have their own like Samsung gaming hub, so they're just incorporated in, like you said, you know what I mean? It's just a matter of time before we see xCloud on there, and then whatever Sony's version is, because Samsung's like, hey, anybody can be a part of it. We just want to have it all together in one place on our TV. They pay for you, they don't pay us. We just want it to be easy to get on our TVs rather than buying a dongle or something. Just have it integrated into the smart TVs.
Yeah.
Which is smart. It's a good way for like Samsung to be a part of that game without being actually a part of the game.
Wow. It's fun. I'm looking at some of these reactions. Seamus Blackley, who is known as kind of the father of the Xbox, he tweeted out, "It's terrifically, incredibly head-melting weird to see little baby Xbox eat up Activision. Some still at Activision will recall a young Seamus showing up claiming things about a new game console only to be essentially mocked. I wonder if today they remember that. I do."
Wow. Damn, that's heavy. That's great. That's actually a great fucking comment, man. That's fantastic.
And then someone had posted, "Decade-spanning pettiness is something I can get behind." And Seamus Blackley replied, "Petty? Nah, they were jerks. It was disheartening, and we prevailed. We need to remember that struggling and doing what's right can win in the end." Yeah, so... yeah, I mean, this is...
It's huge. It's literally, I mean, like I said, we're going to see the full extent of this in a year from now. But this is a huge, huge ass fucking deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're also like obviously thinking ahead with the metaverse with this, the more IP you have, the more companies you have, the more you can make your own metaverse around, like your own gaming metaverse, which I get that as well moving forward.
So, all right.
I'm glad Bobby Kotick is leaving eventually. Like,
yeah, he had to.
Nothing against him personally. Like, he's just not doing anything. Like, he's just not doing anything. Like the crap that's been spewing out there for 10 years, or however long he's been there for. It's just, God, man. If you're the CEO of a company, you got to do more. You can't just be there. You can't just supervise.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is, like I said, not as shocking as the Bethesda one, even though it's much bigger. It's just that because we knew that's the way they're going, and we had already speculated that this would happen 2 months ago, and it happened. Because there was,
look, a year ago, I never would have assumed this. Like once we found out about the toxic work environment and the fact that they were getting sued by California, like the state of California, like then we knew. But before that, I was like, oh, they're in the green, they're fine, they're in the clear. Literally, as soon as we heard that news and we saw the stock market plunging, we're like, oh, they're gonna get bought, they're gonna get acquired. I thought it would have been Sony, but I don't know who is in charge of acquisitions at Sony, but they're sleeping, man. They are sleeping.
Yeah,
on
but
these
remember,
deals.
they have to go up. Remember, Sony's gaming division, they have to go up the chain to get.
I guess it's also because it's
get approval.
Company,
it's not an American company.
Yeah.
They need approval for these things, and if they're not gonna, approve it, they can want it all they want, and if it's not approved by the higher ups, then if that's not their strategy, if they don't believe that's the strategy to go forward with, they're not, there's nothing they can do. I had predicted Microsoft because of what Phil Spencer had said in those statements. He had said engaging with Activision. Remember, he said it was like these reports are disturbing, and like, and how
we're no longer going to engage with them. Well, I think we covered that, and he did kind of hint at possibly buying it. Like he didn't say it, but he like implied in one of his tweets that possibly, or I think he replied to somebody.
He said that they were talking. They were still talking to Activision, and like, so from what I got from that was that talking is not just like, hey, you guys need to clean up your shit. It's like, you guys need to clean up your shit because we want to purchase you. Because remember, the rumor was over a year ago, I think, or maybe it was less than a year, but around a year ago, was that there was going to be a purchase that Microsoft was going to do for Xbox that was going to be even bigger than Bethesda, and that it was going to shake the video game industry in a way that people will be crying out. It was going to be like a monopoly, And this
at this point, I can kind of see it. Yeah, this is like the first thing I thought of was monopoly, but because it's in such a gray area, like new laws would have to be made to like stop them. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not gaming related, but I think of the I always forget about it. It was the state of Georgia against, was it HUAC, House of Un-American Activities? This was back in the years of communism in Hollywood, right? It was but even like nothing to do with communism, maybe a little bit. But anyways, the point is they had the whole monopoly thing. A movie studio cannot own a cinema. You can't be in charge of distribution and production because that's a monopoly, right? Yeah. And then Netflix came in, right? This was years ago, and they only started looking at Netflix 2 years ago, where it's like, wait, hold on, Netflix are producing and distributing because they're an online streaming service. They're making their own movies and TV shows, and they're putting it on their own platform, nowhere else. So they're like, monopoly laws are getting looked at with digital content and digital media and ways around that. So I don't think they'll get slapped. I don't think they'll ever get slapped with a monopoly because a lot of their games are on. Well, I mean, like you said, like Game Pass. You can get Game Pass on anything. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. There's
on
two
any
things.
console,
There's two things.
They're not stopping you.
Two things. How can you claim a monopoly if Microsoft is actually, or Xbox is actually behind Sony in revenue? Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. How can they be the monopoly if they're already behind on those sales? And then, and then two, like these are, they're purchasing all this IP, but IP can always be
free to play.
Yeah, and IP can always be
there's no
created.
On free to play.
Yeah, they don't own the system in where you cannot play. You know what I mean? They're not blocking out developers from creating games on the PlayStation or the Xbox itself. Like if you're a developer, you can develop a game and put it on Xbox or PC or PlayStation.
There's no look real quick. But I was gonna say, I think like even with the Bethesda acquisition, I'm pretty sure there's still Bethesda games on Steam. You know what I mean? Like it's not a monopoly. Yeah, it's not. Even though it feels like a monopoly, it's definitely. I mean, the Outer Wilds. The Outer Worlds. I just saw that get advertised to me right now on Steam. It's on sale right now.
Yeah. So there is no.
Definitely not. It might feel like one, but it's definitely not a monopoly by any means.
No.
Oh God, I'm launching Steam VR. Why did I do that?
All right. Any last thoughts before we go? We talked about this for more more than double what I thought we are going to. But then again, this is a very big topic that's going to have.
It is big, yeah.
A ripple effect.
It's been blowing up my Facebook and blowing up my YouTube for the past 2 hours. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Last thoughts are, I am more interested to see what they're going to do with Blizzard than Activision. I think they're going to have a very easy time with Activision and what needs to be done there and moving their games to Game Pass and in terms of a new IP. I have zero worries there. And it can only get better. Honestly, the state of Call of Duty can only get better. It can't get worse. But with Blizzard, like I said, because they depend so much on Battle.net and a lot of old school legacy servers, I'm curious to see how much Blizzard games are going to come to Game Pass. Or like I said, if they're going to link to Battle.net, so it's like EA Play where you have to install the different launcher, but they're linked together in the same payment thing. That would be cool. That would be the easiest way to do it. I see that. Diablo 4 already in development. Overwatch 2 already in development. I wonder how much. I also am curious to see how much they're going to get involved with that, or if they're just going to let that play out. I hope they leave Diablo 4 alone because it's going in a good direction. Overwatch 2, I only started playing Overwatch a couple months ago for the first time, really into it, even though the servers are basically dead. Well, not really, actually. It takes me 12 minutes to get into a game sometimes. But yeah, I digress. I'm excited to see what they do with that. I'm also excited to see what they do with esports because, like I said, they just acquired a lot of esport games, and that comes with huge online communities. Are they going to bring back the Overwatch League? Are they going to create new leagues in general? I'm excited to see that and how they're going to work out with that.
Yeah, and then also what they're going to end up doing to restructure Activision Blizzard, because remember, those lawsuits are not going to go away. All the issues are not going away, and I have a feeling because someone had I just saw online they had posted the Xbox gaming leadership team, and let's see, out of this team, you have Phil Spencer, obviously the head, but you have out of the people serving under him, there are, let's see, 12 people, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are women.
Well, that's
no,
better.
No, 7. 7 of them are women.
That's a lot better, as long as none of them are being used as token women, which was the problem with Activision previously.
Yeah,
where,
I don't think
they had a female.
So. Yeah.
They had a female CEO, and she was like, "I'm leaving because I'm here just because I'm female." You know what I mean? Which isn't right, No, tokenism is never good.
No, this is not. I don't believe this is. I mean, yeah, if you see so that's gonna be.
Yeah, man, this is huge. This is I know we've been talking about it a lot, but this is huge, man. This is really, really big. They're Microsoft Xbox is gonna dominate for a while,
Yeah. So, all right. I think that's enough about this particular subject. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more, just because it's going to.
We'll get more information as the week comes out. Yeah. We'll get a lot more information soon.
But yeah, if I was a Sony user, I wouldn't hold my breath on some of these games coming to the Sony platform.
Yeah, no.
If you like some of these franchises, you probably, I mean, like I said, Warzone probably will, be everywhere. Just, but because it's a free to play game. But when it comes to,
I just can't believe how big this is. I mean, we were blown away by ZeniMax, dude. That was like an $8.1 billion deal. This is a $70 billion deal. That's crazy. It's that's more than 7 times larger than the previous deal, the acquisition they had. That's a lot of money, Dennis. That's a lot of money. $70 billion is nothing to scoff at, No.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. Make sure to catch our weekly game podcast, which is every week. We have subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Revog. Also, our podcast is on anchor.fm and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter @ThinkHero or Instagram Dennis.tzng. And Josh, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitch @It'sThespis. There should be a link in the description down below. And join our Discord if you ever want to have any conversations about the things we talk about.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Later.